If there's one thing I've liked about collecting for almost 10 years now, it's always finding stuff that you've never heard of before, or games that you just missed out of back in the day. And especially with the PS3 360, I've been collecting games for these two consoles for roughly like 4 or 5 years now, since like 2019, and I've gotten so many good games for cheap, and it's still collecting for it too, because I'm always finding stuff I've just never heard of before. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some good stuff that I have found that I think are pretty fun. And then there are also some games that, well, are a little bit to be desired. Not terrible, but, could be better. But then you got games like Majin and the Forsaken Kingdom. Well, who talks about this game? Literally nobody. It's a shame, too, because there's, not that much on the internet about this game on YouTube. And I was like, really? This is a really kind of interesting kind of type of game, like it's an action-adventure. So the big question is this game at all worth your time to even check out? Well, I'm here today to review Majin and the Forsaken Kingdom for the PlayStation 3.
I blow strong wind. Many things blow away.
I'm counting on you, partner.
Majin and the Forsaken Kingdom was developed by Game Republic and published by Bandai Namco. Game Republic wasn't really that all known of, but they did make some games for Sony. They made Genji Dawn of the Samurai, as well as Days of the Blade on PS3, and then they also made the Hidden Gem Folklore in 2007. And then their last game, unfortunately, was after Majin, funny enough. It was Knight's Contract. That was a 360 PS3 title in 2011. Unfortunately, that game did tank, so that kind of they just stopped making games, and they signed out pretty much. So Majin was their next to last game, so unfortunately the company's not around anymore. The story of Majin is basically you play as this guy named Tepeu. You're a young thief you're on the search for the Majin, because the whole entire kingdom isn't just in darkness, and it's pretty glum and there's not many people around. So you actually do end up running into the Majin, and he's very sick, but you do end up feeding him, and he does get better. And basically, y'all join forces together to take down all of the darkness that's shrouded all of the kingdom and restore balance to the world. Pretty simple stuff. I mentioned it earlier in the video, but Majin is basically a action-adventure / puzzle kind of game. Very reminiscent of games like Ico or The Last Guardian, as well as Legend of Zelda, a little bit of vibes there too. So in this game, of course, you control Tepeu, and then the Majin is for sure the focal point of this game, but he's an AI-controlled kind of character. So Tepeu actually doesn't really do that much. The simple kind of controls, the left stick moves, the right stick does the camera, then you can use square to use your key as like a melee weapon, you can use X to jump, triangles to roll, circle is if you hold it down you can run, but circle's kind of an action button, so like you click on chests and stuff to open them up to get things. You can also hold X and square when you're in combat with him, and you can do like a big thrust attack, so sometimes I can stun enemies, make them go to the ground. You can also hold L1, R1 to lock onto your targets. I never did this, to be honest with you. Then you can use L1 and square to throw stones, and they are useful sometimes, but I'll be honest with you, the rocks don't do hardly anything. You can pull your map up with the select button, which is pretty useful for knowing where you are and want to go. And then the last thing you can do is hold L2, you'll crouch, and you can even sneak around, and you can actually stealth kill enemies. It doesn't work too often, but pretty nice to have whenever the time comes. And to be honest with you, that's about it. Yeah, that's all you really do in this game. That's literally it. No, I'm just kidding. There's more controls, but with the Majin. The bread and butter of this game is for sure your buddy Toyotl, which that's his name, but we just call him the Majin for short. The Majin is definitely the meat and potatoes of this game with the gameplay. Basically, with R2, you can hold that down and you can command him, and triangle makes him follow, circle you can feed him, L1 is to roar. I'll be honest, I'd hardly use that one. Square is your action. That's how he gets to, open doors, he can attack enemies, and he can even activate kind of crane kind of deals. So he can do a lot with that. And then you can R2X to make him wait or crouch. When he crouches, you can actually jump on top of him and reach higher places that you couldn't before. R1, you can do the same thing. I won't cover this one too crazy because you have to unlock all this stuff, but R1 is his elemental attacks. You can hold R1 And you can do like a wind attack with square, flame with circle, lightning with triangle, and then the last power you get is purification. You get all these throughout the game, but most of the time you'll be using the R2 commands. All in all, the elemental powers you get are pretty much kind of like the key items you get in The Legend of Zelda. Very similar. The structure of this game, the whole game is kind of similar to a Metroidvania. The whole game is one giant world and everything's connected. One cool thing too is like there's not really that much loading except for like whenever you start the game and all that stuff, but you know, pretty much what you do is you need to get to the castle, which requires 4 masks to break, and to do that you have to beat 4 bosses, destroy them, and get the masks unblocked, and then you can access the final part of the game. Throughout your adventure, you'll find these little green balls on these flowers. Those are your health for Teotl, the Majin, and you can give them to him and you'll fully heal him in battle. That's very important because one thing you don't want is for him to die. If he dies, the game is over. Now, if you die, one good thing is if he comes fast enough within like 5 seconds or so, he can revive you with a small amount of health, but the one key thing is to have those green balls on you because you're going to need them because he can actually heal you while he's standing still, and in order for him to do that, he has to be alive. But as long as there's no combat going on, you should be safe from that. A great thing about this game is there are RPG elements technically. You can get blue crystals and red crystals during combat, and what those do is it levels up your character where you get some more abilities and you can get more stamina and strength. Nothing too crazy, but it does improve your gameplay. And then the red crystals help out the Majin. To get these, you have to fight, enemies and stuff like that, or you can open chests. Chests are very, very recurring throughout the game, and you'll find them and they'll help you out in your adventure. A big thing I want to touch on is the combat of this game. The combat is very simplistic. We've already kind of went over that with the controls, but basically, whenever you're fighting enemies, well, you don't really have much you can do as your main character. You can use square and just bash them to death, or if you're stealthy, you can, kill them from behind. But mainly, what you'll be doing is using square most of the time. And then, of course, using the Majin, holding the R2 button, commanding him to do things. Problem with the combat, though, is it can get a little tedious. It's very slow, and there's knockback in this game. So if you get hit by one move, and there's like 10 enemies on screen, it can really throw you behind. It can just take a while to take down these enemies. It can be a little frustrating doing that, but I just wanted to kind of point that out. The combat, it's fine, but it can get a little tedious. With the gripes aside about that, though, one great thing about this game is definitely the puzzle solving. Now, like Ico or The Last Guardian, that's definitely the meat and potatoes of the game. This game does a very good job with the puzzles. They really build the game around the Majin, and when you play through the game, you'll see stuff like catapults and like, cranes, and like you can even move towers and stuff, and they do a very good job with it. It's not perfect. There are some flaws, here and there, but it's very unnoticeable. But I had a great time with doing the puzzles in this game, so I give kudos to, Game Republic for doing all that. Majin in the Forsaken Kingdom is mostly a pretty easy game. It does gradually get harder as you play the game, so just kind of know that. There's less green orbs and those flowers that come along, and the enemies get tougher. So one key thing you do want to know that I didn't mention earlier is pick up those little orbs that you can power up your Majin, because those will give him more stamina and more power, as well as, just battling a lot. That also helps too, so those things really come a long way in this game. The music in this game is pretty good. You don't really listen to it too often because there's a lot of quiet moments in the game. Whenever the music does cut on, though, it's pretty good. It's made by Toshihiko Sahashi, and he's very famous for making tons of anime compositions. Stuff like Mobile Suit Gundam Seed, Ghost Sweeper Mikami, and even Kamen Rider stuff. He's got a huge list, but pretty interesting stuff. Majin in the Forsaken Kingdom is a definite hidden gem for sure in the Xbox 360 and PS3. Anyone who wants to play more games of that generation should definitely check this out. It's a great game, it's really fun, it's got flaws, it ain't perfect, but the good overweighs the bad, for sure. At the time of this video, if you want to buy this game, it's only on the PS3 and the 360. The PS3 version goes for about roughly $42 complete in box, and the 360 version goes for much less. It's $16 complete in box. Now, I will say this though, 360 games are going up as we talk, So you may want to buy this game sooner rather than later. Unfortunately, though, there's really no other way to play this game. Game Republic's no longer around. No one really seems to care about this game anymore, like, with the devs and stuff. So it's pretty much just stuck on the 7th generation. So it's lost in time at this point. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like down below. If you got something to say, leave a comment down below. And of course, if you want more content like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks again everybody for watching. Take it easy.